Entertalk Radio, you're in to all things music.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. You are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, that guy he was talking about, your host, and a man who loves to celebrate National Donut Day in his own special way with a big box of donuts and just eating my feelings over here in the studio. And with me, as always, on the air is my own personal Garth, Paul B. at Entertalk Central, the newly remodeled Entertalk Central down in San Diego. How's it going, Paul?
Good. Halfway remodeled, I would say. Still a bunch of random wires everywhere.
How many trips to Lowe's are we talking before it's done?
Home Depot. Oh, I think most of that is done. We just now actually have to organize everything. I kind of rebuilt the studio. If something blows up here, it's because I must have forgot to connect something.
Yeah, right on, man. Absolutely. Well, we wish you luck with that. It sounds good to me, so I think we're good. So let's just jump into the show. So who am I? What do I do? How do you reach me? That kind of fun stuff, which I'm sure the listening audience wants to know. So I'm Scott. I run a PR firm called Robertson Communications here in Rancho Santa Margarita, California. The best way to reach me is to shoot me an email at scott@robertsoncom.com. I can also be found on social media. My firm is out there, Robertson Communications. On Twitter, it's at RobertsonCom, 2 M's like communication. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/RobertsonCom. So reach out and let me know what's on your mind. Let me know what's going on in your world of marketing. If you agree or disagree with something that comes out on the show, I always like to hear from the listeners out there. And sometimes folks give me ideas for what things we should cover. Just things that are going on. You guys are super smart as usual. One of the smartest podcast audiences ever. That I know of, at least, because you're listening to this show and because this is episode 126, and we're going to be talking about indie artists. The name of this show is Making Indie Artists Major League. We're going to be doing an interview with Javan from Octiive. If you're a music artist in 2019, the world is pretty different, than it's been. There's no record labels to pay you, guide you, also take the vast majority of your money and, limit your creative control, all those fun things. You're pretty much on your own, but there's an awesome OC-based startup called Octiive here. They have some new resources and a huge passion to help artists out there succeed. So joining me on the program is their CEO, Javan, to talk about what they're doing and how they're trying to change things. Javan, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm good, Scott. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. How are you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you on the show. And, Javan and I are going to tag team who's winning and losing in marketing this week. And then Javan's going to stick around. He's going to give you some tips. If you are an artist out there, he's going to give you some tips straight from all the learnings that they've had over at Octiive about what, great independent artists are doing these days to market themselves and to get their music out there to more people. So it's going to be another stellar broadcast. You guys are lucky you're strapped in for this one. So let's dig right into the interview portion. So Javan, at Octiive, you encourage artists to be their own record label. What do you mean by that?
Sure. Yeah. So one of the things you kind of actually started the segment with, getting it right. Really, one of the things that we're realizing more than anything else today. I mean, a successful artist today it's very different than it ever has been before, right? So indie artists now have a lot of different tools and resources at their fingertips that just were not available before. It was only available by way of major labels. And what's changed really with the digital revolution is that a major label can no longer just be the gatekeeper, right? They can't control the output of what's being released out there. So you used to have to have a major label. Now you don't. So what we want to do is we want to empower independent artists, independent labels, and really give them, the tools that are really available now and required before, but still required, but at least to allow them to be successful and really return, which in return, could be used as negotiation, leveraging it to get potentially better deal if that's what you want. So I guess in summary of it, to hammer home some of the things, artists now have an opportunity to completely control their art and creativity, right? Whereas before, labels would plug you in a studio with a producer of their liking, basically saying, "Hey, this is what these guys sound like. Let's mold them to this." You now have complete control when it is that you want to release music. You don't have to wait, X amount of time, 10, 11, 12 months when an album's been, done and you're jonesing to just get out there. Complete control where you want to distribute your music without really major label roadblocks. Obviously today streaming is massive, right? So the Apple Musics of the world, Spotify, Amazon Music, there's hundreds of them. And, so those are the things that we really encourage in the resources that we roll out. Also access to a ton of social media and marketing platforms to promote your band, or really your brand. And that wasn't available unless, again, you were going through a major and they had really the channels, the network, radio played a big role. And lastly, speaking of radio, there was a lot of opportunities for artists to pitch their music to influential, playlists, or, hire the person that they want to help them, pitch their music. Whereas, again, that wasn't really available before. Radio controlled everything, and major labels generally controlled radio. So those are the things that we truly encourage artists to look after, and we can provide a lot of those resources here.
Very cool. And so what are some of the products and services, up on your website, there's a lot of information, but, what are some of the most popular products and services that you guys offer at Octiive?
Yeah, and I appreciate that. So distribution obviously is our forte, right? So we can essentially get any artist's music, through the same channel as a major label artist. We're in a sense, the only company that provides independent artists, and labels, a major label distribution network, and resources.
Cool.
So they can, get their music out to, we're in over 600 plus retailers over 140 countries. That's the main thing that we do. In addition to that, we can assist, with some early stage type of marketing strategy to help those artists get a boost out of the gate with their new project. If they're releasing a new single or an album, let's kind of get a kick out the door, to help with that, or if it's just a brand, if you just want to promote your brand as a whole, what we do generally is kind of help you capture compelling PR, the story about you or the message that you want to get across, and can help you get it out there to different blogs, different music type of platforms that are influential for independent musicians and things of that nature. And then
nice.
Of course, enhance your sound. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was just saying, and the artists, otherwise they'd have to do all that themselves. They'd have to, have the connections, have, know who's relevant, be able to get the information to them, kind of be able to do all that, and that's a huge time suck, right? So they can save, artists can save, a whole lot of time and probably have a lot more success by kind of going through you guys to streamline some of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And part of it is we always say, hey, if it's something that you want to do on your own and you have the bandwidth, do it, go for it. It's available to you. But of course, if you're focusing on writing songs and the creativity aspect of it, which ultimately that's as musicians, that's what they want to do, then a service like ours is a very cost effective way to get you the assistance that you need.
Very, very cool. Well, why or how did you get into all of this? How did your path end up here?
Man, I ask myself that every day because it's not financially all that glamorous. No, I started, and this I can speak on behalf of our entire team. Really, I started as a musician. I was in business school. I happened to be at the right place at the right time during a day where actually record deals were happening at a much more frequent pace than today. We're talking about, I don't want to age myself, but the late 90s before, again, the kind of the digital revolution that happened. We ended up getting signed. We fell in love with the industry in terms of a career as our band. It didn't pan out the way we wanted to, but I just absolutely was fascinated with the industry, and it's it's so relationship based. What's crazy is, I mean, we control, especially here in the U.S., a massive percentage of the international music, right? Global music, really the influence of it. But the industry is, as a whole, it's pretty small, and it really comes down to, who the networks. So, we always kind of say the same thing to artists. I mean, no matter what, even if it's not going the way you wanted to go today, you don't want to burn bridges, right? At the end of the day, you want to, you want to get to know people as much as possible, see who's out there, potentially can be able to help you and so forth. And that's really how I got into it. And eventually, and in a nutshell, once we had an album and we passed it on to the machine of what happens after that, I was fascinated with that part of it. I was, very curious. And that's how, we kind of formed this company, because we saw that there was a lot of demand for it. There was a lot of need for independent artists to be able to get their music out through these channels. And early on, it wasn't available. Even with the digital switchover, it still wasn't that easy to do. So that was how, I guess, what's transpired to be Octiive today.
Awesome. And if, I know you have a lot of goals and everything like that, but if just for the audience, if you have one major objective, what is your one main objective that Octiive is trying to do, or that you're trying to do?
Look, as probably as cliche as it is going to sound, I mean, at the end of the day, we want to genuinely help independent musicians. Again, our entire team, I mean, we're small, but everybody's an active musician. We're not just talking about, past musicians. Everybody has their own projects going on. So we feel like we can truly relate to our artists. And of course, at the end of the day, I mean, we're a business. And we want to be successful, and, we want to be able to hire people and then continue to do what we love to do. But that being said, again, I mean, our entire team, are a bunch of musicians. So we feel like we can relate to you a little bit easier. If there's certain things that you're dealing with today, we feel like we maybe in parallel are kind of dealing with that. So that's the main goal. And, I guess in summary, it's really to kind of, build a successful culture and foundation at our company. But the success that we want to achieve is by helping independent musicians, pursue their dreams. Everybody wants to be a rock star, but, hey, if we can at least help you become or be able to build a career doing that, I don't know what rock star means anymore, but, if I can actually make a living writing and, recording music and performing, that's a win. So that's what we're trying to do.
Nice. All right. Any success stories that you'd like to share? How old is Octiive, by the way?
We're fairly new. We started as a company, formerly called Mondo Tunes.
Right, Mondo. Okay.
Yeah, we basically launched around early 2016 beta. We were kind of testing out different things that what worked, what didn't work, and Octiive we just literally launched this past May. We kind of switched the business model to make it more user friendly, some additional services and features and things like that for artists.
Well, awesome. Any success so far that you wanted to share? Obviously, you got to get on it. It's been a whole month already. Come on.
Yeah. Previously, Gary's, what's wrong with you guys?
Exactly.
A couple of different ones, and there's different levels of this. We've had some success. For example, we've had a small handful of artists that we've helped get on influential playlists on Spotify, for example. That's really helped spike up the revenue stream. So and that's again something that we encourage artists to look into. We understand time is always kind of it's obviously the main factor. So we're here, we can help with that. But we've also seen past successful artists that were under major labels, find enough confidence, in other words, to kind of branch off and rebuild their brand and career as independent musicians. And we've done, certain artists like that. I mean, it sounds even silly to say it because they've had massive, success in the past, but, we've actually worked with, we've been fortunate enough to work with Shaka Khan. We released our,
cool.
single a few years ago. It was actually a really cool message about bullying and things like that. We worked with Keith, who's actually a pretty big hip hop artist.
Sure.
And Master P, we did a single with him for a kind of a different feature and different venture he was working on. He needed a song for it. He released. So we've done really cool things like that. But at the end of the day, it's about the unknown, really, the independent musician that is our kind of core focus.
I flipped on just to, so I'm a bar band musician, like a bar and wedding band, musician kind of thing, like kind of the, my goal is to claw my way to the middle of show business someday. And someday I'll get there. I have a feeling, but, I flipped over to, I was at iTunes and I was looking at the top 100 songs and I just kind of gave them a listen, and I've never felt so old in my entire life than in that moment. Then listening to that stuff, and I was like, I don't know who any of these people are. I don't know what they're singing about. I'm not even sure what language this is. I feel like I just want to yell at kids to get off my lawn. It's just sad.
Hey, I'm right there with you a little bit. But technology's made it so much easier, right? Than when we were recording. I mean, it's obviously the concept's still there. I mean, if you want to get in the studio and they kind of go through this big production, sure. I mean, it's available, but you can flip open a MacBook, on GarageBand and know what you're doing and actually pump out some really good music, right? So it's, I think it's done a good job of encouraging at least musicians to keep being creative and writing music. The only thing I would say, of course, is we somehow need to make sure that I guess this generation continues on with the actual talent of the instruments too, right? Let's not lose track of that because it's much easier to record. So, but yeah, I'm with you.
Well,
there's a lot of music out there like, whoa.
Yeah, how can artists get connected with Octiive?
Yeah, quite easily actually. First off, we make sure you stay in touch with us on social. We're always hanging around like Facebook and Instagram and of course Twitters and things like that. Secondly, I would say one of the things that we're very proud of at our company is the fact that we still want to provide very hands-on type of artist support for our users. We always, we boast quite a bit that we always, get back to you the same day, unless it's, 11 p.m. at night. But we generally get back to you same day. If you shoot us an email, we'll respond same day with specific responses to your questions. It's not some, blanket or template response. So, so I mean, anytime email, social media, coming out with us, we're very easy to get in touch with.
Very, very cool. Well, we just got about a couple of seconds left in this segment. We didn't get to talking about marketing, but we can come back around before we do your tips in segment 3, and we can certainly do that. Right now, you guys are listening to Javan from Octiive on May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media. Come on back in segment 2. We're going to talk about who's winning and losing this week in marketing.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody, it is Friday, and you are tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader in music biz talk. I am Scott, your host, hanging out with Javan from Octiive. We're talking about independent artists. Javan, how's it going so far for you?
Great. Anytime I get to hang out with you, I'm in. So this
sweet,
has been a nice little break into the weekend.
And hopefully Paul's still awake back there. Paul, you still hanging out in the studio? You still around?
Yep, hanging in there. Obviously, on a little bit of a brain delay.
A little bit of a brain delay. Paul's been working on a remodeling project for the studio for quite some time. It's taking its toll. All right, well, let's dig right in. So here on segment 2 of the program, as you loyal listeners out there will know, we like to dig into what's going on in the rest of the world in terms of marketing and communications and the wild world of that. And we call it winning and losing. So Javan and I will discuss a few stories that are making some headlines this week. So let's, without further ado, today, as I mentioned at the top of the show, is National Donut Day, which means you, the listening audience, if you're listening to the show live, you can get free donuts today at Krispy Kreme, Walmart. Might want to rethink that, but they're just it's there. But Dunkin' Donuts, a bunch of places. It is National Donut Day, and the donut people of the world are celebrating by giving us donuts, and that's a good thing. You need to know about that, and you need to go and check that out. And I was telling Javan on the break that this thing was like made up by somebody, right? I mean, there is no National Donut Day. Somebody was sitting around and said it should be National Donut Day, and then boom, it was so. And then everybody kind of got to focus their marketing efforts around National Donut Day. So that's how those kind of things happen. And just you folks outside the PR and marketing world, you may not know this, but pretty much every day of the calendar year is something day. I mean, there's a book that floats around PR agencies that lists all the days. You can probably search for it online these days too. But I remember whenever PR firms are sort of out of ideas, we go to that book and go, well, where's a day that we can tie into? How can we tie it to a day and just make a day? I don't know. But Javan, I say winning because I think free donuts anytime is winning. And I think making up holidays to celebrate whatever the hell you're selling is also winning. So Javan, your thoughts? What do you think?
I agree. How can you can't say no to free. So yes, absolutely. I'd love to see numbers though. How many more donuts does each potential donut shop? How much does it increase? Right? But, it's a great day.
I wonder that would be interesting. Do these days? Obviously they're giving away some donuts, and obviously if you're going, the feeling is like it's like when Taco Bell gives away a free taco when somebody scores in the NBA finals or something like that, or gets a steal in the NBA finals or something. They are banking on the fact that if you go in there for one taco, that you're probably not going to leave there with just one taco. You're probably going to be like, I'll take my free taco and that will also, and I'll also take 3 or 4 more, that kind of thing. Or, but some people just come in and get the one free taco and just skate. You don't know. I don't know, but
that's strong discipline. Yeah,
exactly.
With donut, at least you're grabbing a coffee or something. You would think, right? But
yeah, exactly. And a lot of these places like Dunkin' and Krispy Kreme, they make a lot of money on on the beverages too. So anyway, it would be interesting to see if there was like a marketing study about that, but. For everybody out there, if you're listening to this on June 7th, you still have time to go get your donuts today, free donuts at all these different places. You could bounce around to a few different places in your neighborhood and get probably like a dozen donuts, free dozen donuts if you went to 12 different locations. I'm just saying.
You should have started the segment at 6 a.m. That would have been more helpful.
Exactly. Yeah. If we would come in at breakfast, we'd have been in good shape. Well, I think we can both agree that National Donut Day is a winner. And also, if you're a marketer out there and you're looking for and you don't know that, you should look up and see what days have been designated for what you can do. Sometimes it is, I kind of joke and say it's when you don't have any ideas, but sometimes it could be really interesting. I've gotten some huge hits for clients, just by tying into some stupid day that somebody made up, quite honestly. And it's like, and that's a winner, whatever you could do it. So it's great. Well, cool. Apple is making some interesting news. They had their Worldwide Developers Conference last week. Made a lot of news, but one of the interesting things that came out was they, Apple's been very big on privacy. They took out a huge building-sized billboard at CES and said, that basically said what happens on your iPhone stays on your iPhone, right? And basically letting people know that we're the guardians of privacy. It's in our, it's in Apple's DNA to guard privacy and that sort of thing. And their behavior sort of plays that out, right? You've seen that even Steve Jobs talked quite a bit about that before this was even an issue. So it's sort of been baked into their culture, kind of doing that. And certainly Tim has, taken the reins of that. But they launched this new feature called Sign In with Apple. And what's interesting about this is when you're logging into a new website and they say sign in with Facebook, sign in with Google, and sign in with things. Well, Apple basically says, okay, so Facebook does that, and then they sell your data, right? And who knows what happens with your data, and who knows? And Google has, they have no restraint and very little morals, so they will absolutely sell your data. Been proven many times, but Apple's saying we won't. And they're saying you can sign in for anything with us, and we won't share any more data than needs to be shared, about what you're doing, and we won't allow anyone to sell it. And we won't kind of do that. And so in doing this, they've really kind of launched a very first of all, it's a direct shot at Facebook and Google, and the second thing is they've launched a very interesting new weapon in privacy, which is basically it starts to ask the question, who do you trust? Which one of these brands that you're looking at, which one of these brands do you trust with your data? And again, Apple is the company that said no to the FBI that wanted to crack a terrorist's phone. So right. Apple has proven time and time again that they're on the side of privacy, even if the greater good, everybody could sort of get emotional about the greater good and everything. But Apple said, look, this is wrong. This is having a master key to open these phones is flat out wrong, and we're not going to do it. And they've always sort of been on that line. So I think it's kind of an interesting thing for Apple to have launched this sign in with Apple kind of thing. I don't know, Javan, you work with Apple quite a bit. You work with Apple Music quite a bit. Well, what do you think about sign in with Apple?
You know what? I think. It's one of those things, right? I mean, it depends on what group of friends you're talking to and getting their thoughts about this. But for the most part, I think kudos to them for doing that. I think it's a great tool. I always kind of question, though, because, every iPhone, I use every application with my, fingerprint technology. Mm-hmm. I always kind of wonder, like, where is my fingerprint going? Where else other than opening up this, bank app, for example, right? So I always kind of, curious about that stuff, but I think they're sticking to their roots. They're sticking, to what they've always kind of stood by, and I applaud them for that. So at the end of the day, I think it is, but I think it's fantastic. I mean, personally, if they're coming out and publicly saying that, and that gives a lot of confidence for people to, use obviously their technology to log in compared to maybe some of the other ones. So I'm for it.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Apple's smart to, they basically have created a privacy product, for themselves. And I think that they're smart because they realize Apple's so good at market opportunity, right? And they realize there's huge market opportunity in privacy. They realize that Facebook has failed, that Google has failed. Google doesn't care, but they've definitely failed because they probably don't care. Amazon, who knows? Probably not protecting privacy. I mean, I would actually say they have failed because of all the stuff that's come out about their employees listening in on Alexa stuff, and so it's like Apple's basically saying, look, if you can't trust any of these major players, maybe you'll trust us. And if you trust us, then we get to be the gatekeeper, earned or what have you. It helps them kind of extend their empire a bit through a privacy product. It's fascinating.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think you mentioned Alexa. I read not too long ago there was actually a case where I forgot what case or what court, but someone actually had subpoenaed records, actually recordings on Alexa for an individual or something like that. And it was all there. So technically speaking, Alexa's always recording you, right? So yeah, you're absolutely right. And I wonder how easy or vice versa, how not so easy is it to actually opt out of those type of the things, right? And making sure that you actually have privacy and all that stuff. And I don't think some of the other companies really even put that in the forefront. So again, kudos to Apple. If they can do that, I'm pretty sure that's going to spike up their interest in products again and services.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll put that in winning. Absolutely. Who else is winning this week? Some new data came out about mobile devices, and mobile devices have finally supplanted television as the most watched medium that we have. The average time in the U.S. spent with mobile increased again. We've covered this in a show, pretty much every time there's a study about it. But now the average U.S. adult will spend 3 hours and 43 minutes on mobile devices per day, just above the 3 hours and 35 minutes spent on TV. Of the time spent on mobiles, they spend 2 hours and 55 minutes on smartphones, which is a 9-minute increase from last year. Tablet use among U.S. adults continues to lose ground a bit, having peaked in 2017. So it really does seem like the phone is the device, even though it's a smaller screen. Although I guess it depends on whose phone you're talking about. But in general, it's a fascinating study, and I would advise everybody to check out emarketer.com for the full story, because there's much more than we can get into here. But it is interesting to see that now the most time that's being spent by U.S. adults is being spent on mobile phones and not television, and that is sort of a landmark, sort of watershed kind of moment that as a marketer you just have to pay attention to. And sure. I don't know, what are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that, Javan?
Yeah, I agree with that. I was actually going to go there. I mean, how many times, or advertisers, right? How often you see those infomercials or just commercials in general, and how now active companies are, how proactively they're going after remarketing. So anytime you go to a site, how often is it that you actually get on your phone or your desktop and it's following you everywhere, right? So it's definitely the case in my household. I'll tell you that much. Less TV and a lot of screen time, especially with my two kids. So I don't know how proud of that I am, but it's definitely the case. In terms of winning or losing, I don't know, man. I think we need another 5 years to see where it's going to go. It's going to be zombied out. Everybody's going to be looking at their screen. I'm not sure.
We could put a pin in that, but who knows? Yeah, exactly. We don't even know. You know who's losing this week though is Carnival Cruise Lines. Good Lord! So Carnival's cruise ships. A new study came out for Carnival. It seems like every time I bring Carnival up in this show, it's going to be bad news, but I don't do it intentionally. It just the news is there. So Carnival's cruise ships now pollute more than all of Europe's cars combined. A new study came out. This is a poor headline, by the way. That this is not what you want to see happen. As the Financial Times has reported, Carnival's pollution problem is so bad that across its fleet, it pollutes 10 times more than the 260 million of Europe's cars. Yikes. So, Carnival, geez. So Carnival hasn't really released a statement on this yet. It will be fascinating to see what they what they say about this. But that's a lot of pollution. That is a lot of pollution. When you say that just these boats pollute more than all of the cars combined in all of Europe, that's a big statement, gotta say. And, the organization found that Carnival were the proud owners of 7 of the 20 most polluting cruise ship lines.
Wow.
That's one thing that's one thing you don't think of, is that cruise ships really do pollute a lot. I don't know. You just kind of think the propellers underneath the water, and I don't know. I guess because you don't see it in terms of like emissions, right? But I guess the smokestack. So there you go. I don't know. They're gonna need to work on it. What do you think?
Yeah, that is just unbelievable. I think they should just, they could just punish their entire leadership team and just give them some paddles, and they can paddle all the customers for the next couple of years. Well, that's unbelievable. I've never been personally a cruise ship guy myself. I don't see I understand it. I get it. But for me personally, I never saw the appeal of it as much. I'd like to, just be a little bit more hands-on even during the travel time, but that's nuts. And I don't know enough about, I guess, their kind of industry to see what some of the competitors are doing better, I suppose. Right. But that's awful. That's absolutely awful.
Yeah, bad news. If you're working in Carnival's PR department and that study comes out, you got big problems. You got to figure out how you're going to address it. You got to and the cruise ship industry in general. If they're not talking about bad news, they got no news at all, man. It's just it's nothing but sickness and this boat, and
people falling over.
Yeah, they tipped over, and that. I mean, it's just it's terrible. It's a terrible business. But all right, I got one more. So Walmart is going to deliver. They launched a new service to deliver groceries inside customers' homes. Basically, employees coming in, opening up your refrigerator, and putting the groceries right in your refrigerator when you're not at home. They're going to start offering this service this fall to more than 1 million customers in Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Vero Beach, Florida. We've only got about 40 seconds to go over this, but to me, I mean, I don't get this. I mean, do you really want one of Walmart's employees in your home putting stuff in your refrigerator? I mean, I just I can't envision a scenario where I say, yeah, that's what I want. That's super convenient. It's like, I don't want you in my house. Well, what do you think, Javan? Got about
I agree with
12 seconds.
I personally like the experience of going to the store every once in a while and kind of picking what you want. And I'm visual, so I wasn't even thinking about this. Let me just go and grab it. So yeah, I'm with you. I'd rather keep our home, with a safe and sound, and just go out instead.
So true. And you guys are listening to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, an undisputed leader in music biz talk. Come on back, and Javan from Octiive is going to give artists some great tips. Come on back.
I'm Tim Dolbear, the host of Sound Experience on Entertalk Radio. Each week, I talk with top professional audio engineers, producers, musicians, and the manufacturers that make the tools that we use in the studio each and every day. From capturing the perfect take to mastering your final release, and the tools and how the pros use them, we are going to dive deep into their process and learn from their experience. I look forward to you joining us each week on Sound Experience with me, your host, Tim Dolbear.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
Make this your vinyl night. I'm John J.R. Robinson, and every week, music creation comes alive through stories, experiences, and sounds when vinyl records filled our hearts and minds. My friends and I share our tips and techniques used in creation of iconic tracks for recording artists such as Michael Jackson, Eric Clapton, Quincy Jones, and Steve Winwood, to name a few. Vinyl has emerged hot, and the soul of vinyl defines art and passion which burns deepest at night. Tune in every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on EntertalkRadio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
May the best brand win with Scott Robertson's Music Biz Marketing Strategies. Now, here's your host, Scott Robertson.
Hey, everybody. You are still tuned to May the Best Brand Win on Entertalk Media, the undisputed leader on music biz talk. I'm still Scott, hanging out. Javan and I, from Octiive's with us, join us on the program today. Javan, you're hanging out. You having a good time so far?
Absolutely. Appreciate it. I appreciate inviting.
Excellent, man. We got Paul. He's keeping everything going at Entertalk Central. Paul, you got any thoughts on winning and losing this week? Did you like any of that?
I was sleeping. I gotta admit. I'm sorry.
Paul's sleeping.
I don't know what's happening in the world.
He can, he creates the show like in post, so he can like insert his comments back in there and like.
Oh yeah. I'm going to sound like I'm totally tuned in on the other end of this. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do some Googling. I'll come correct.
You'll come back. You'll come back in. Well, that's fine. Let's move on. So one question I didn't get to in the first part of the show is I wanted to talk about marketing. It is a marketing show after all. So, Javan, what does the marketing mix look like right now for Octiive? What is working for you guys? What definitely isn't? What have been your learning regarding your marketing?
Good question. Learning is the key word. You know what? The one thing that's actually been very positive for us is plain and simple the old kind of traditional word of mouth, right? So. One of the things that we believe in doing is providing the very best service that we can, and generally, the music community, they're very involved, right? So that helps us quite a bit with, in terms of referrals and word of mouth. But then there's obviously, a lot of things that we do online. Just being smaller, we are very cautious and calculated and very methodical about how, we do, certain type of marketing. So, for example, you won't see us in, a bunch of different events across the country. We'd have to be way more, thoughtful of, what makes sense for us to get out to. And then, online, of course, we want to see what, keywords and things like that our users are actually searching. How can we help you guys basically reach the results of your search in an accurate way, right? So we use a lot of, AdWords, advertisement. We use social media, things of that nature. But it's still very, very bare right now. It's been a lot of word of mouth and a lot of repeat business, and working with a lot of different users that passes on to their friends and other musicians.
Nice. Well, that's very and there's nothing more real in marketing than word of mouth, right? There's almost no way to sort of hack word of mouth. It's like you either have it and if people have good experiences and that kind of thing, or you don't, and that kind of thing. So it's very real and it's very cool if you can kind of supercharge that, and and it builds trust in sort of a world that is lacking in trust. Because everybody that does marketing, either kind of exaggerates, and some companies just full on lie, and so that kind of doesn't help the whole you can trust us kind of vibe, that kind of thing. Well, cool. Let's jump right into. So you've got some tips for these artists out there. So why don't you give us your first tip, Javan?
Yeah, sure. So I'd love to take all the credit for this, but not me. I've discussed this with our team quite a bit, and just to see what's working for them, and other friends, and again musicians that they know. So. A few things that were the constant. One of them, you can't replace being original, right? So stick to writing what moves you. You don't want to get caught up on the trends. This looks like there's X amount of streams for the song. If it's not you, if it crosses into what you do, fantastic. But if it's not, stick to what you do best, and write again from the heart and soul, in a sense. So that's one of the things we always talk about, and I think that's when your best work's going to come out, just by being original.
Yeah.
And secondly,
Oh, no, I was going to say, so on that tip, be original. There's a lot of pressure. Everybody says they want to be different. Everybody says they want to be original. But if you actually are original, you're kind of weird. And people need to know that, is that because we get that in marketing all the time. They say, "Oh, make us different than everybody else." And I say, when I make you different from everybody else, it's going to be very uncomfortable for you, because human beings don't like to be different from everybody else. It goes completely against our psyche to do it, and so it feels weird. Do you ever, you would encourage artists to be original, but do you ever find that some of them, are like kind of buckling under the pressure, because like I said, when you're original, when you're unique, when you're your own thing, sometimes it feels a little naked out there. You know what I mean? Anything like that you ever see?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the one example that I think has always been a really good one, Radiohead, right? They came out with Pablo Honey, and then after that they followed up with OK Computer, and it was so out there, and it was at that time it was very unique, right? And again, it had this original kind of touch and sound to it. But I think they were sticking by who they were. They really were curious of what they can put out there and what they can come out with if they sat on a room together, and so I think there's a lot of that. I guess to kind of clarify, being original. You're absolutely right. I mean, trying to do something that's outside of the norm can be nerve-wracking. I think a lot of people, there's that natural anxiety that comes along with it. But I think part of that should be kind of harnessed in excitement too, right? So by being original, I mean, if you're doing what it is that, you truly feel, and you're not just basically being a me too, like that song was huge, let me just try to copy that really quickly. And that's the main thing that we're always talking about. Like, don't follow the trends, and write what you feel from the heart that is with you. You don't have to obviously be cookie cutter either. Explore, but be yourself. I don't want to write the next Taylor Swift hit just because it made her $1 gazillion. It would be nice, but that's
absolutely. That's a good one. What's your second tip for artists out there?
Especially these days, I definitely say if you can really master quality and speed of your material, right? So just because there's so much consumption of music and really video content out there, it's so easily accessible. People are constantly swiping left, right, up, down, right? So unfortunately, attention span, that's just kind of where it's gone in a sense. So you don't want to wait too long to come back with a follow-up. If you have a song or a product or really an album or whatever it is that you put out there, a project that has been successful, you want to come back and try to follow up with it as soon as you can, or as within obviously reasonable time. You don't want to force it either. But at the same time, part of that is you don't want to lose quality if you're writing or recording, right? So you don't want to force something out there just because you want to write that momentum. So you have to find that nice balance of being able to kind of put out things fairly quickly, but not losing the quality of it. Staying in front of your fan base. I think I always use One Republic as my example, because I like Ryan Tedder, the songwriter. B, they're one of the most successful international bands right now. They actually recently announced that they don't really even put out albums anymore. It just has taken too long, right? So their fans demand things faster. They want to put out singles. They'll put out 12 singles a year. Each month they'll put out a new single, and they've done a good job of that. It's worked for them. So
nice.
That's one of the things that we'd always recommend: quality and speed. If you can capture that balance, that's good.
That's great. That's great. And I can see your point there, that the fact that you don't have to wait and years and years to put out this album, because the audience could be completely gone by then. They could be they're going to be on to something else. So you got to kind of strike while the iron's hot. I could see that.
Yeah, absolutely. Before you write, record, get in the process, mix, master. Now we got to actually get a physical product out, right? The cover art was going to look great, the artwork, shrink wrap it, ship it out to all these stores. I mean, it's a 4-year process, right? So Now it's not, and if you can actually take advantage of that, then great. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to good music, so you want to make that key. I suppose in conclusion of that, if I had to pick between the quality and speed, I would always pick quality. But I think repetition will kind of give you a nice balance.
Well, awesome. What's your third tip for artists?
It goes back to a little bit of your marketing, thing that you're exploring about a little bit. I think most artists these days, bands, artists, musicians, need to think of your music and image as a brand, right? So, and that obviously goes down quite a bit because before you would write a song, you would write album, an EP, and you're just kind of playing shows locally, begging for attention to hopefully get a record deal. We always encourage these days now, because all a major label is, if that's what you're chasing, they're essentially a bank, right? So they want to put money into something that they feel that's going to give them the best return. And in order for that to happen, it's quite symbiotic in a sense. The more active you are, the more success you've had on your own. Guess what? If you go that route, the better the deal you're going to get, right? You just have a lot more leverage. So we always encourage artists to look at it as a band. No different than, seriously, if you're opening up your own hair salon or deli, like you're going to have to figure out, how do I get traffic to come to the store? I make great sandwiches. How do I get people to come to the store? We try to tell artists to think of the same way. Your brand, your image, your music, of course, at the end of the day. How can you draw traffic to that and start looking at it as a brand and not just, a band that's hoping to get signed?
That's easy. I would declare it National Sandwich Day, and then give away like a little bit of a sandwich to everybody who comes in, and hopefully they would buy chips and a drink or something. There we go. We should create National Sandwich Day. I guarantee you, by the way, National Sandwich Day exists. As stupid as that sounds when I just said it out loud, I guarantee you it exists.
It has to.
Definitely.
I know National Taco Day exists, right? That's definite.
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does. We're gonna have to declare National Independent Artist Day. That'll be the one you can declare. Actually, somebody probably already has it. Well, cool. What's your fourth tip for artists out there?
One of the things that kind of, all these obviously semi go hand in hand for the most part, and no particular order. But you want to figure out your target audience, and you want to market to them, right? It gets really overwhelming when I think all artists, all of us across the board, we get so excited if you see, like a movie or hear a new album. You get so excited about, wow, look at these rock stars, how they've been able to kind of amass this, massive international audience and things like that. That's going to overwhelm any independent artist. So we always, talk about the target audience. Who are they? How can you market to them? Don't get overwhelmed with international fame, but you want to rather just, in a methodical way, work towards it inside out. Find a small region. I mean, in Orange County, even, okay, let me play local shows. How do I kind of build a fan base here? And that will help me kind of spread, right? The whole viral effects. So that we always encourage that. Otherwise, it's just going to be overwhelming. You can't capture it all. Can't do everything overnight. If you do, fantastic. I'd love to know what the recipe for that is, man. But otherwise, let's take it step by step. Don't get overwhelmed. Focus on the things that you can control and work inside out.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think most bands, when you're meeting with bands and artists, do they kind of know who their music is for, or do they kind of discover it when they put stuff out and say, I wonder if they're surprised sometimes and say, hey, I didn't know that our thing appealed to this audience, but maybe it does. Do you find that?
Yes, that's a good question. I mean, generally speaking, even here in Orange County, usually depends on the card of bands that are playing, right? You would almost know what type of potential fans are coming out. If it's an emo kind of instead of a classic rock band or pop rock bands that are playing. So in some ways you could, but I do think with all the streaming platforms and things like that, you just never know who's going to become a fan, right? So it's opened up the game a little bit. It's definitely opened up the game. But I do think they could still target, certain audiences and fans depending on where it's at. I mean, go out to shows still, be active, be out there in the community. And I think that'll kind of help you define, your audience and fans, and especially if you're networking with other bands and, power in numbers. So, that's one of the things we encourage, especially if you're still out there doing it live, you just want to make sure you do it as best as possible.
When I was living up in LA, I used to play in a band called Toolbox, and we played like kind of power pop, like Blink-182, kind of fast moving punk kind of stuff, right? All originals. And we played like the Viper Room and stuff like this. And our target audience were some of the scariest freaking people I've seen in my entire life. I mean, I would come out on stage and I was afraid to be there. It was like these people like wearing like latex rubber, and they had piercings from their ears to their chins and stuff and everything. And I remember kind of looking out at the crowd, and I was like, this is our target audience. Well, because our music was kind of a little bit, maybe a little angry, and
sure.
And so we sort of attracted kind of an angry and what I'm going to call like kind of a vampire-esque kind of following that scared the crap out of me on stage, just as an aside. It was really weird. And so, I mean, if I sat down and you said, who's your target audience? I would say, well, people that wear a lot of black, have a lot of piercings, there's a lot of and people who are angry. If people are angry, then they're going to like our music. There you go.
Yeah, it's not very often that it goes so easily hand in hand, right? 2 + 2 = 4. In other words, like boy band, the labels knew if we have a bunch of good looking, basically kids in a boy band, chances are you're going to get a bunch of teen boppers, right? And so it was an easy kind of like correlation of the two. But nowadays, you almost have to get out there and see. I think there's a lot of that still. I mean, I think there's a lot of available data and information to see what regions or what pockets can be kind of your fan base. But you got to do some homework, and then I would also write out internet, the streaming platforms and things like that as much as possible.
Cool. I got to get your 5th tip in here, and I only got about 45 seconds. Sorry about that. But what's your 5th tip for artists there, Javan?
Sure. Easy one. You got to stay active on social media and build a following. Fans love that direct engagement. If somebody sends you a note, if you respond to it, it does a lot. I'll give you a really simple, silly example. I'm a massive soccer fan, European football.
Nice.
One of my favorite players is Francesco Totti. And a few years ago, he had, retired from Roma, and I was like, I will always follow him on Instagram. I mean, and there was a bunch of congrats and all that stuff, and I sent him a thing, hey, big congrats from, fan of yours in the U.S. or whatever. And he actually responded. I'm assuming it was him. It could have been, it was a assistant for all I know. Hey, thanks so much.
Man.
And I was like, wow, man, this is awesome. This guy actually responded to me. So there's a lot of that. It does a lot of, it moves people. And I think people should actually really be hands-on it, and touch with the fans.
Well, we're out of time, but thanks very much to my guest, the CEO of Octiive, Javan. Go check out Octiive.com with 2 I's and thanks so much, Javan. You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Entertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free 1-song mix offer.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?